Now Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the latest and greatest edition of the best sports podcast in all of South Florida, Between the Hash Marks.
South Florida?
That's right, South Florida. I am here with the one and the only James Koklak. James, how the hell are you, and how about this crazy week of sports?
Well, first of all, it's the best podcast in the nation, not just South Florida. Come on now.
All right.
And I am doing fantastic. Once again, it is Friday, it is the weekend, and guess what? I'm in a great mood.
Cool. Well, why are you in a great mood?
It's Friday, and we're doing the cast.
That's right. This could honestly be our best show. I know we like to think we get better every week, but this show we're absolutely loaded with amazing topics. We have a brand new segment for everybody called The Final Quarter. It's new, exciting, fast-paced way to end the show, and we're excited to bring it to you guys. We'll also be discussing this insane NBA trade deadline. Of course, we're going to give our take on the Super Bowl and just what a crazy game that was. But it's time to put on our serious faces because it is time for my opening rant. About 6 years ago, we had the biggest scandal in NCAA history with Jerry Sandusky. The former Penn State defensive coordinator sexually assaulted 10 boys over a 15-year period. We all remember it. We all remember how disgusted we were. We all remember the punishment that Penn State received from the NCAA that came along with it. The $60 million fine, the 4-year ban on postseason football, the significant reduction in scholarships over a 4-year period, the entire football program being placed on a 5-year probation, and allowing any current Penn State player to transfer to another team. Essentially, the destruction of an entire football program without implementing the death penalty. And we can debate all day whether or not it was warranted to punish a football program for something that had nothing to do with football or the program at all. But this is about something bigger than that. I, in my life, never thought there would be another scandal that would even come close to the level of seriousness as that. Unfortunately, I'm dead wrong. As many of you know, former USA Gymnastics and Michigan State doctor Larry Nassar was sentenced to a minimum of 100 years in federal prison and a maximum of 235 years for molesting and sexually assaulting over 260 female athletes at Michigan State and USA Gymnastics over the course of 2 decades, and possession of child pornography. While USA Gymnastics has a lot to deal with as well, we will mainly be focusing on the systemic problems from the top down at Michigan State University, in which they allowed more than 2 decades of sexual assault, silence, cover-ups, and victim shaming to go on. Because of the spotlight on Larry Nassar with USA Gymnastics, the spotlight shifts to Michigan State, where there are now several investigations into every aspect of MSU with regards to the culture that seems to be prevalent throughout the entire institution, and that has been prevalent for more than 20 years. In 1997, there was a complaint by a female student athlete about Nassar and inappropriate touching, and when she came forward about it, she was essentially called a liar. Another complaint in 1999 was brushed off by another athlete. According to one investigation, at least 14 coaches, trainers, and other representatives knew of sexual assault allegations against Nassar. In 2015, there was a criminal investigation into Nassar, and during this investigation, he was allowed to continue working. Eventually, prosecutors decided not to press charges. Nassar actually had restrictions placed on him, but the dean of the school's osteopathic medical practice did not see the need to follow up or enforce any of those restrictions. They literally let women get molested, sexually assaulted, and raped, and then covered it up. This behavior also sparked broader concerns about MSU's handling of all sexual assault cases in general, not just with Nassar. An ESPN Outside the Lines investigation reported a pattern of MSU officials bungling complaints of sexual assault and not being transparent with authorities or the public. This includes MSU's top football and basketball programs. In the investigation, 16 MSU football players have been accused of sexual assault since 2007. Only 4 have faced disciplinary actions and only 1 faced criminal charges. Another 2010 rape case involving 2 basketball players was swept under the rug. Both players were not even suspended from the team. In the same year, ESPN also discovered that a former undergraduate student assistant basketball coach had been criminally charged for punching a female MSU student in 2010 at a bar, but he was permitted to keep his position. Later in that same year, he was accused of raping another female student along with 2 unnamed basketball players. The student assistant coach was fired after that, but according to a former sexual assault counselor at MSU, little action was taken in regard to the players, and the report stayed within the athletic department. Michigan State's president, Luana Simon, stepped down after being pressured a couple weeks ago, saying, "Throughout my career, I have consistently and persistently worked on behalf of Team MSU." And that right there is the genesis of this entire problem. Women have been coming forward about rape accusations since the late 1990s, and they have been called liars. Some were called over-exaggerators, and some even told they clearly did not understand the medical procedural effects of groping and massaging of the breasts. It's this cheerleader type of attitude for Team MSU and the protection of the brand of MSU that is the absolute worst possible thing for all women that attend the school, when it is the job of the institution to protect them at all costs. Because this has involved the entire athletic department, including the football and basketball programs, the medical department, and the school's administration, the strictest sanctions need to be put into place to ensure that the culture of Michigan State changes. The punishment I am calling for needs to be this. First, a $150 million fine that will go towards charity for helping women. 2, every single victim / family of a victim of assault by Nassar needs to be taken care of financially. 3, every top administrator needs to be replaced. 4, anybody in the medical department that was Nassar's superior needs to be replaced. 5, a suspension of all NCAA athletic programs for 1 year. A suspension of all postseason play for 5 years. A significant loss of scholarships for 5 years. The replacement of everybody on all coaching staffs, including Tom Izzo of the basketball team and Mike D'Antonio of the football team. And allow any current Michigan State athlete to transfer immediately to any school for the next 2 years, not to mention all of the criminal charges. You think this is too strict? Well, let's put this into perspective. Go back and look at Penn State's penalty for 10 victims. Now, I know not all 260 women were Michigan State athletes, but this isn't just about the female athletes at Michigan State. This is about all victims that were affected in some way, shape, or form by Michigan State and their mishandling of sexual assault cases. The entire systemic culture. The head of the snake needs to be cut off. Anything less than what Penn State received would be an absolute travesty. Anything not even close to what I spelled out would be an absolute travesty. How can we call it justice if punishment does not attack the root of the problem? James, as far as the punishment goes, is this too much or too little? Why?
Well said. Well said. I agree with everything you've said there, except for one thing. And we discussed this prior to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think Penn State and Michigan State, yes, Michigan State had more victims, but I still think that the little boys with Sandusky is just as bad. I don't think that they're both horrible in their own way, but you nailed it on the head. These penalties need to be harsher than Penn State's were. They could be harsher than even what you said, and that's the harshest penalties I've seen yet. Without question, they need to cancel sports for at least 1 year. At least. They need to.
So you want more than 1 year?
It could, if that's what it takes. Then yes,
you'd be okay with it.
Yes, they need to focus on getting a better culture there as a school, as academics, as teachers, as superiors. Whether it's professors or it's the dean or whoever it is, the president of the school, the athletic department. whoever it is, they need to work on getting a better culture overall there. They can't focus on winning a national title in football or in basketball or in volley, whatever it is. They need to focus on being better humans first and foremost. And I mean, it's just upsetting to talk about. 260 women. This guy, I'd say he deserves a death penalty, but I think that's letting him off.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Here's what I have an interesting quarrel with what you said. You think the penalties should be worse than Penn State's, but you don't think. And I don't want to sit here and compare which one's worse and which one's not worse. The reason why I'm saying it's worse is because there's more victims over a longer period of time.
The problem is worse.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the crime is worse.
And it's not just Larry Nassar. It's everybody. With Penn State, it was one person, and then like kind of people covered it up, like the athletic director and stuff like that. But with this, it seems like this is just every sexual assault case is being covered up one way or another.
Yeah, it's a bigger problem. The problem itself is worse.
Okay.
Not the crime.
Okay.
The crimes are equal. Whether it's a little boy, it's a grown woman, they're both disgusting.
Yeah.
And should never happen. But the problem itself is much bigger, and that's why these penalties need to be harsher. And they could even be harsher than what you said. It could be 2 years that they don't have sports. And then when they come back from sports, they shouldn't be allowed to play in the postseason.
Yeah.
They need to learn that there needs to be a precedent set.
Absolutely.
This is not acceptable in college, in pro sports, in your workplace, anywhere on this planet, including the Falcon Heavy that was just sent up to space with an American car. It shouldn't happen there.
Yeah.
This is a problem, and it seems it's happening with celebrities now. There's more stories. It just so much has come out, and this is just the biggest story of them all, and it's just a big problem right now, and it needs to come to an end somehow. And by punishing Michigan State so severely that it shut down the university. How about that?
Wow. Yeah,
shut down the university.
That would be not that I could see it happen, but that would be if they were to actually do that, that would blow everybody's mind. But that would set the precedent. That would be enough in my mind where something like this would never happen again.
I'm just thinking, and I'm not
because that's the whole point of this, like to make sure this never happens again. Like the punishment needs to make sure this never happens again.
I'm not a father right now, but I've got two younger sisters than I am. One is in college at FAU, right down in Boca, and the other one's going to college next year.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine something like that happening to my sisters, and the things that I can't even say what I would want to do to that person on this podcast because I'd probably get arrested. It is such a disgusting crime, and you know what? If they've we're talking about 260 lives that could be potentially ruined.
Not to mention the families of all those victims.
So it's just, it is shut down the university. How about that? That's my take. Shut it down.
Damn.
You know.
All
so
right.
I mean. But you know what? I've had enough talking about politics. Let's go on. Next segment. How about that? You ready for the next segment?
Sounds good to me.
Most important football game just happened on Sunday. We're going to discuss it, the Super Bowl, next, right here on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
Well, it sucks. Football is officially over for the season. Can you believe it? I mean,
I'm honestly a little sad right now. We have to wait until like September.
Don't get me wrong, the Devils play this Sunday, so it's going to fill my football Sunday real quick, but I'm going to miss playing fantasy.
Yeah.
You look forward to the Super Bowl every year, and it's over.
Yep.
But how about that Super Bowl? One hell of a game, huh?
Yeah, one hell of a game.
Well, I know that you weren't very satisfied. And you know what? Quite frankly, neither was I, because I don't like Philly either. So it was kind of a lose-lose for me, and we discussed that last week.
Yep.
But one thing that I really want to harp on is that Doug Peterson outcoached Bill Belichick. It happened. It doesn't happen very often. Tom Coughlin didn't outcoach Bill Belichick in those two Super Bowls. He got outcoached. Straight up outcoached. Another thing that I'd really like to harp on is the controversial TD catches. Ertz and both Clement. Both of them. In my opinion, neither should have been a catch. You need to stay consistent throughout the season. And you know what? The Eagles were ballsy. 4th down conversions, the Philly special, having your backup tight end, Burton, throw the ball to your quarterback in the end zone on 4th down in the Super Bowl. Whew. Talk about having guts. But one thing I'm still really thinking about, and I can't figure out why, because we really haven't gotten a straight answer. Why didn't Malcolm Butler play?
Yeah, no, just things that I take from the Super Bowl. It's not Brady's fault. A lot of people want to say, "Oh, Brady's now 5-3. He's lost a buttload of Super Bowls now." How do you not play Malcolm Butler? Refs, I think they got the Ertz call right, but they blew the other touchdown call with Clement. That changed the whole game. Is this season still rigged now that New England lost, or is it only rigged when New England is winning? I'm trying to figure that out. New England had no pass rush. If you don't get to the quarterback, it's the name of the game. You don't get to the quarterback. I mean, even Blake Bortles can look good. So there's that. Brandon Cooks getting injured on his first catch. Nice little move he had there. Him getting injured, complete BS. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game. New England was still able to move the ball really successfully, but complete BS. I want to say I was right about New England feeding Gronk. Gronk had a great game, 2 touchdowns, bunch of yards, a lot of catches, great game. But I thought New England would make more of an effort to stop Philadelphia's running game. I was saying, make Nick Foles do it twice in a row. Like, they tried to make Blake Bortles do it twice in a row, and Blake Bortles almost did, and it was the right recipe. They stopped the Jacksonville running game, and Blake Bortles, he played well throughout the entire game, but just not the last, 7 minutes of the 4th quarter. I thought New England should have done the exact same thing against Philadelphia. I thought the defensive backs for New England played okay. Yes, they gave a bunch of yards. They gave some big, huge plays. But there were a couple plays. I know one of the Alshon Jeffrey touchdowns, Eric Rowe was right there. The ball was just right over his fingertips. I mean,
he just wasn't tall enough.
Exactly. But with all that being said, if New England didn't botch a field goal, if they didn't miss flat out an extra point, I mean, that's an additional 4 points right there. Not even counting the touchdown for Philly that I thought was completely butched. The Clement one in the back of the end zone. The Ertz one I thought was fine. But I mean that changes the whole outcome of the game right there, and just how teams are playing the whole game. So I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I feel like New England should have won this game. Brady played amazing, and you know what? When they scored that touchdown with 2.5 minutes left, I was perfect. I was thinking perfect. There's way too much time. New England's gonna drive the ball down, and they're gonna score a touchdown, and they're gonna win this game 40-38. And then the fumble happens, and then boom. I mean, they still almost came back. If that was a catch in the end zone, that would have been ridiculous.
There was some major pass interference, not in the end zone, running to the end zone.
Yeah, no, there was
running to the end zone.
They could have given them. I don't know if they would have been a pass interference. It might have been a holding, but
still brings you closer to the end zone and another throw.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I also want to agree with you. Peterson, he completely outcoached Bill Belichick. I don't understand how you don't play Malcolm Butler. I know he was sick the week prior. They want to say he was out late and he violated team policy. It sounds like from everything that I've heard that is not true. I mean, it's interesting here. Like who do you believe, the organization or the player? And they both are pretty adamant and they're pretty clear about what they're saying here. I mean, they're saying he broke team policy. They're saying he was out. He's saying, no, I definitely was not. I mean,
what I like about this whole situation is I think he's going to try to stick it to the Patriots.
Yeah.
I see him signing with the Jets this offseason. I really do. It was strictly because of that right there.
I mean, if he wants to continue playing for successful teams, he wouldn't do that. But I could no. But
he won't
I
be back with the Pats.
But I can see him leaving. Like what's stopping him from going to like Denver or something like that? Or
I don't think
just
Bill Belichick wants him.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. Like, how do you not play him? I understand. Okay, even if it's just pure football reasons, which is why Bill Belichick said pure football reasons, the dude is a playmaker. He does give up some big plays. He gave up a big play in the previous Super Bowl, but I mean I mean, people would say he's a top 20 corner in the league.
He also saved the Super Bowl.
And that's another thing. He's a big playmaker. He can make the big play. Not saying he would have, but it would have been nice, to have a little bit of help on the defensive end, especially with the way Nick Foles torched the defense. And you would think, okay, yeah, the bend and don't break philosophy, it's not working now, but all it needs to do is work once or twice in the game, and then you win. Well, especially with the way Brady was playing.
Bill Belichick, I almost believe in him, and I hate him.
Yeah.
As a Jets fan, I believe in him. I was like, you know what? He's not playing. There's got to be a reason.
Exactly.
He sees a vision.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, sometimes he's just playing wrong. I mean, it is possible for Bill Belichick to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah, I guess it's just weird to think that because he's always right. But I do want to kind of flip-flop back to the Eagles really quick.
Yeah.
Something that I don't quite get either is that LeGarrette Blount had more carries than J.J. Now, but here's the kicker. You'd say, well, LeGarrette Blount, maybe he was running the ball a little bit better. 14 carries for 90 yards, 6.4 average. J.J. had 9 for 57 yards, 6.3 average.
Yeah.
A tenth of a yard difference per rush. J.J. is your star running back. Why is he not getting the ball more than 10 times in the game? He got it less than 10 times.
Yeah, that is a little interesting, but I just think because no matter who they put back there, it was working, and who knows, there could have been, I don't know how complicated the Eagles' offense is with Nick Foles, but who knows, maybe Nick Foles called a couple audibles on 3 plays where Jay was supposed to get it, and then, or what if he called like an extra play or two for LeGarrette Blount just based on what he saw. I don't know if that's what they do. Maybe Doug Peterson makes those calls, but I don't know. But it didn't seem to matter because New England couldn't stop either of them.
No,
and that's the problem, and like that was what they were supposed to do, and when they run, that. All right, Nick Foles, he's a decent quarterback, not good, not great, but you got to make him make the plays for this team like you did against Jacksonville with Blake Bortles. You stopped the run game, which is what they did. They held Fournette to like 75 yards on like 20 carries. Not a good game at all.
No.
But Blunt and Ajayi just, they torched him.
Another thing that kind of opened my eyes a little bit was I'm looking at the receiving stats now. Both teams lit it up receiving-wise.
Yeah.
Besides Brandon Cook getting hurt, I'm sure he would have lit it up too.
Yeah,
but Hogan,
Yeah, Hogan had a great game.
Yeah, Gronk had a big game, but for the Eagles, who led them in receiving yards? Corey Clement. 4 receptions for 100 yards.
Yeah.
Next was Nelson Aguilar, 9 receptions for 84 yards.
Well, Nelson Aguilar, he had huge plays, huge third down conversions. Just it seemed like every drive he had at least one.
I believe it was a third down conversion, and this has nothing to do with the actual game itself, but they ran the play, and Ertz and him crossed paths and dapped up on the field during the play.
I saw that.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I actually saw a report that Aguilar wanted to do it on another play. I think it was the play that Ertz ended up scoring the touchdown on, the game-winning touchdown, or the go-ahead touchdown. I guess the game-winning doesn't really matter, but yeah, no, Aguilar wanted to give him another high five on that play as well. Just another funny tidbit there.
Talking about that touchdown, though.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into this here. They ruled both a touchdown. I clearly think Clement's touchdown was not a touchdown. He bobbled it. He got 2 feet in, but then he bobbled it, kind of losing control, what the NFL says.
Absolutely.
And then the next foot was out of bounds. So
100%.
How is that not a catch?
100%.
Zach Ertz, you say not a catch, and I can see why people say not a catch, but the reason why I do think it is a catch because he established himself as a runner. He took I think it was 3 steps, and then he dove for the end zone.
He got tripped up.
But yeah, he tripped up. But he's like diving for the end zone, and the ball crosses the plane of the end zone while he still has possession of it. And this is while he's a runner. And I think that's what made the difference. He was established as a runner. If he did not take 3 steps, I think it would have been overturned. And who knows what would have happened. I think they still would end up scoring because no one couldn't stop them to save their lives. But yeah,
that's very true. But it's just crazy because Jesse James's catch was similar, but it just wasn't tackled.
Yeah,
and so the ball's over the goal line. I mean, why is that not a touchdown versus this?
Because I don't think Jesse James in the Pittsburgh New England game. I don't think he established himself as a runner at that point, which is why New England practices and preaches. You get the ball, you go down. You run, but you don't extend like that. You just go down. And we've seen so many plays this year, and it's been happening previous years too, but this is just the year because it's for New England and people are really starting to harp on it. And it's like, oh, the refs are for New England, blah, blah, blah. But I seriously think Zach Ertz's touchdown was good, but I don't understand the way they've been calling it all year. How do you call both touchdowns? I actually thought they were going to overturn the Ertz play just to, make up kind of a make. Yeah, but man.
I couldn't believe it either. And this is just something it actually doesn't have to do with the Super Bowl, but it has to do with getting to the Super Bowl. Now, we're talking about consistencies. Last week, after the cast, we looked up that Brandon Cooks catch.
Yes.
Both agreed it was not a touchdown.
Yeah, no, it was definitely questionable.
The
one against Houston.
Yeah. So you take away that touchdown, they lose that game, right?
Yes.
And then you take away you add the Jesse James touchdown on. If you're adding this Ertz one, it's very close. So it's 2 losses to New England, and I'm not talking about Steelers or Houston right now. Just New England. You add those 2 losses. Now you got the Steelers as the 1 seed, the Jags as the 2 seed, and the Patriots at the 3 seed. I wonder if the playoffs would have panned out the same way if the refs were consistent all year long with their calls.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing to have because New England would end up playing Buffalo, they would have won, and then they would end up playing Jacksonville again. But,
in the second round instead of the third. Yeah. But they would have played Pittsburgh more often than not. Likely they would have played them in the AFC Championship game. So playoffs would have looked a little bit different. But that was brought to my attention. I'm like, you know what? That's really, really crazy.
No, it's interesting. Well, but in reality, they should have just said the Cooks catch was not a catch, but also the Jesse James catch was not a catch also. So would that have put would that put it New England as the number 1, or is that Pittsburgh still number 2?
Pittsburgh still number 1 because New England and Pittsburgh had the same record this year, and New England had the win against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So the Pittsburgh still would have been the number 1, Jacksonville still would have been the 2, and New England still would have been the number 3. Really, really, really quick before we move on, if I told you that Brady would throw for 505 yards. Yes, you heard me correctly. 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yes, Nick Foles had the 373, the 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also caught the touchdown. Pretty big game, actually really big game for Nick Foles. But if Brady throws for 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, turnovers would be even for both teams. The Eagles would miss on 2-point conversions, and the Pats lost. Before the game, you tell me that I was high on drugs.
I would ask you, how many fumbles did Brady have?
And it was the 1.
Yeah, no. But even with the 1 fumble, I mean, you still have to be crazy to think that New England was going to lose this game. If you told me that Brady was going to have that kind of game, because we both kind of thought this would be lower scoring because the Eagles defense would step up and the Eagles offense wouldn't be as good. So most people had lower end scores for this game. And if you told me that Tom Brady's going to have 500 yards and 3 touchdowns, I'm going to say New England's going to win this game like 35-14 or something like that.
100% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. So. All right, well, regardless, it was a very entertaining Super Bowl. I'll even admit that. The game was better than the halftime show again. So that's good. But coming up next, we are going to break down one of the craziest NBA trade deadlines. And we are just around the corner of our newest segment, the final quarter. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to Between the Hash Marks. Remember to stay tuned for our newest segment, the final quarter. But whoa, we had an absolutely crazy NBA trade deadline. Dwayne Wade is back in Miami. Did the Lakers actually get better? We will have the biggest winners and losers from the deadline, but we have to address the elephant in the room. The Cavs made a huge roster overhaul. To begin with, they traded Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye and their own 2018 first round draft pick. And in return, they got Jordan Clarkson from the Lakers and Larry Nance Jr. They traded for George Hill and Rodney Hood, sending Derrick Rose, Jay Crowder to the Jazz. The Jazz sent over Hood to Cleveland, and the Jazz sent Joe Johnson to the Kings, who the Kings are going to end up buying out. The Kings sent Hill to Cleveland, and Cleveland sends Iman Shumpert to Sacramento, and a 2020 second round pick, if that's going to be worth anything. And then to top it all off, the Cavs send Dwayne Wade to Miami for a heavily protected second round pick. So in review, the Cavs got rid of Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, Jay Crowder, Derrick Rose, Iman Shumpert, Dwayne Wade, their first round pick. They still have their Brooklyn first round pick, and they sent their 2020 second round pick. That's no longer any of the Cavs. What they got Clarkson, they got Larry Nance Jr., they got Rodney Hood, and they got George Hill. Are they better? Yes or no?
I do think they are better. Are they going to beat Golden State? No. They're still not as talented as Golden State, but they're definitely better. D. Wade, yes, he's a good player. He will help the Heat. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But Isaiah Thomas did not fit with the Cavs. He's a ball-dominant player.
I agree.
And LeBron James is the ball-dominant player on the Cavs, and that's not going to change.
Yeah.
So I love that trade to the Lakers. D. Rose, washed up. He was my favorite player. I'm a Bulls fan, and he was definitely my favorite player for a while. And you know what? I still miss the way he used to play, but he's never going to be that guy again.
Yep.
So he was kind of just wasting space on that team. Crowder was not the same player as he was on Boston. It was almost like he was overwhelmed by playing with LeBron James. And you know what? Iman Shumpert, see you later. You were just kind of like, yes, you were good at defense, but you were
supposed to develop a three-point game and you never did.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? Rodney Hood, 25 years old, has potential superstar attributes to his game. I love that move for them. George Hill, they need three-point shooting. They need three-point defending. He does both very well. That's his specialty. So, yes, they got rid of some players, but I didn't even mention the Larry Nance Jr. He's had a really big year for the Lakers.
Yeah.
So, and Jordan Clarkson, he's a pretty good point guard to say the least. So he's not a superstar, but he's definitely that. Michael Jordan didn't have a superstar point guard his whole career.
No.
So, I mean, you just need a serviceable point guard to play with LeBron James. Jordan Clarkson is that and some. So I love this move. Cavs definitely got better. They could actually overtake Boston to be that number one seed if they can get on a roll here. They have the talent to do that now. I just don't think they have the talent to beat Golden State still.
Yeah, no, I think saying that they could take Boston of the number one overall seed in the East, I think that's going a little bit too far. I think they're too far back right now. But I do agree with you that the Cavs did get better. Hill is a good player for them culturally. As long as he's like this past year with the Kings, he's kind of checked out. So hopefully,
well, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, no, the Kings are been the laughing stock of the NBA since like the early 2000s. But he can shoot a three. He's a 45% three-point shooter. Like you said, he can defend the three as well. Larry Nance Jr., he plays really good defense. So that's what they needed. They needed some interior defense. They got that from him. Rodney Hood, good shooter, averaging just over 16 points per game. He's only shooting 42% from the field, but 39% from three-point range. So they got another three-point shooter there. He's not a great defender, but he's not a terrible defender. And Clarkson, he is another decent, reliable point guard and gives them depth at that position because they ended up losing so many guards with Isaiah Thomas and with Derrick Rose and with Dwayne Wade. They needed guards, and having Clarkson and Hill, I think it's a more complementary pieces to LeBron. And they got rid of Wade, Rose, and Thomas. You get rid of all the egos. Those are three big egos. Not saying Wade and LeBron didn't get along, but Wade is another huge ego. And just getting rid of that and getting something for those players I think
they didn't really get much for Dwayne Wade.
No, they didn't get much. They didn't get much for Dwayne Wade, but they did get. I thought they actually got some real pieces for Rose and for Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, they did.
So,
I'm surprised that they got Rodney Hood in that trade.
Yeah, no, that's a very surprising move by them, and they did what they wanted to do. Their goal was, let's turn our whole roster over and still get better, and they did that. So, I mean, hey, but what about the Lakers? What do you think? How do you think they did?
I love the Lakers right now. I love the moves they made. They got Isaiah Thomas, who he can properly rehab now. This season isn't everything anymore for him because he's not going to the playoffs. Okay, they still got Lonzo Ball. He's going to continue to get better. We've discussed him on the podcast before. They still have Brandon Ingram, another young talent who's really, really good out of Duke. He could have been the number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
He ended up going number 2. And now you have 2 max slots. Welcome Paul George to the Lakers because he's on his way there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see about that.
And they've got room for another guy. I believe they will sign 2 max players this offseason. I think Lakers basketball is back after these trades.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think they also got better. They cleared up a lot of space, like you were saying. They got Isaiah Thomas, and if he pans out, that is amazing for them because they got him for nothing. And if he doesn't pan out, well, it's no big deal because you didn't get rid of much for him. You got rid of big contracts. That's what you ended up getting rid of. That first round pick, they did not have a first round pick because they traded that to Philadelphia, but now they have a first round pick. And this allows them, like you said, to go get some big names in free agency, whether they think Isaiah Thomas is that person or not. They're going to go after Paul George. And if they get Paul George, well, then hello, LeBron James.
Well, throw this out there, too. Now, I've never heard this. I'm just kind of going off rumors in the past. Damian Lillard is going to be out of Portland soon enough. People are calling for him to ask for a trade, specifically Stephen A. Smith, because he's kind of being forgotten about out there. He doesn't make the all-star teams, and this guy, we're talking about a top 3 point guard in the game right now. This guy's a phenomenal basketball player, and I could see the Lakers going out and trading for a guy like that for that max contract.
Yeah, I just don't see Portland wanting to get rid of him because he has been Portland for the last few years, and Portland's been decent with him. They haven't really been able to get over the hump as well. I mean, when they lost LaMarcus Aldridge, that definitely hurt their chances of actually really doing anything. But I just don't see them getting rid of Lillard.
It's just a little throw it out there. Hey, if it happens, you heard it here first.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And moving on to the next thing, the Heat. Wade. They got Dwayne Wade. Everything seems to be back to normal with the world. Well, are they better now, though?
Wade's suiting up for the Heaters tonight against the Bucks.
Against
so
Milwaukee.
That should be interesting. That place is going to be rocking tonight down here in South Florida. Of course they got better. It's Dwayne Wade. He's not the same player. No way. I mean, you can clearly tell his face got fat. He's got chubby. He looks like he's becoming an older man now, so he doesn't look like that young D-Wade who's going to go out and be an all-star, superstar basketball player anymore. His numbers reflect that. His minutes reflect that. His game reflects that. But we don't see on a daily basis, but players see is his leadership.
Yeah. And
he's going to bring a lot of experience, a lot of leadership, and he may only put up 10 points and 5 assists a game for the Heat this year.
That'd be good.
Exactly. That's my point.
Okay.
So he's not the same player, but he definitely makes them better in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, and especially as far as revenue goes for the Miami Heat.
Oh, yeah.
Over the past 24 hours, I don't know if you saw this, but Miami Heat gear has gone up 8,000% over the last 24 hours as far as people purchasing because of Dwayne Wade. So I'm sure the owners are loving this move here. They're raking in the dollars right now.
Well, it's not Miami-Dade County. It's Miami-Wade County.
Exactly. All right. Biggest whiff. Who you got?
Biggest whiff, Celtics. Also, I have one other team in there. The Thunder. I think that they could have added something. I know they have got a lot of good players on that team, but they just haven't gelled completely.
Yeah.
And I felt like that maybe they could have made a move. So I would say the Thunder and the Celtics as well.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree with the Celtics. I also want to throw in San Antonio. Both teams are contenders, but they did nothing to get better. The Celtics, they should have gone after Tyreke Evans. The Spurs should have gone after Tyreke Evans. maybe the Celtics will go after Joe Johnson because it appears the Kings are going to end up buying him out. We'll see about that, but they need another guard to take it off Kyrie Irving's shoulders, and they didn't do that at all. They did add Greg Monroe, but they needed guard help. They didn't need
a big man.
Exactly. So and the Spurs that they just need. It seems like they need more offense on their team.
Kawhi back.
That is the thing. If when Kawhi comes back, if Kawhi comes back,
he may never even play for them again.
Yeah, so we'll see. Biggest winner, I have the Cavs. They accomplished their goal. They saved themselves. If LeBron decides to leave, they still will have a pretty good roster. If LeBron decides to leave. And they also kept the possibility of winning a title open for this year because I did think they got better. They'll not definitely, but I think they secured their spot in the finals a little bit more with that trade. We'll see what Boston and Toronto have to say about that. But
I think LeBron's on his way out.
Yeah. So
I think he's on his way out the door.
Yeah.
Per certain information that we got here. But so that's my thought. I think the Lakers won this trade deadline though, strictly because the Lakers are the Lakers. They haven't been good in the past 4, 5, 6 years or so.
Yeah.
Really since the Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash era when
that team was terrible.
Exactly. But no, that's what I'm saying. When they started to go downhill is when that happened.
Yes.
And we're so used to the Lakers being good and the Lakers being in the playoffs and relevant in basketball. This move made them relevant again. They're going to sign 2 max players. It could be LeBron James. It could be through trades. Could be some way, shape, or form. But the Lakers are going to be back in the playoffs next year and could be contending for a NBA championship as soon as next year with this move. And that's why, long term, Lakers win this for me.
Okay. All right.
But it's finally up. Time is finally up. It is here. Our newest segment, the final quarter, is coming up right around the corner, right here on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to BTH, and I'm your host, James Koklak, along with my co-host, Sean McCabe.
What?
And guess what? It is time for our final segment of the day, our newest segment to the show, the final quarter. Now, a quick rundown on how this segment's going to work each and every week, because we will be doing this segment each and every week as our last segment of the show. The final quarter of a football game would be 15 minutes long, 60-minute game, 4 quarters. This is our 4th quarter. This is going to be a 15-minute segment, and we're just going to take it literally as many topics as we can, between 30 seconds, 2 minutes topic, somewhere in that range, and we're going to give you what we think about it really quick, our take on it, and we're moving on. We want to cover as many topics as we can in this segment to make the show more interesting. How do you like it?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, let's start with number 1. First of all, Josh McDaniels spurns Indy. He decides not to become the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts after agreeing to become the coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Does this say more about Josh McDaniels' character as a person, or does it say more about the Colts as a franchise?
Well, it's both. I mean, McDaniels, he is a cocky offensive coordinator. He is arrogant as all hell. He left Bill Belichick the first time thinking he is the god of football, went to the Broncos, took a dump on the Broncos. He drafted Tim Tebow. Yeah, so he obviously doesn't know what he's doing as a head coach, and he bailed on another historic franchise. The Colts they're historic. I mean, they won a Super Bowl. They've been to a couple, but it's not just McDaniels. There are major questions with the Colts here, and this the first reaction I had was there's something wrong with Indy. And then my first thing is the owner, Jim Irsay. He is a terrible person. He's a terrible owner. I don't blame him for that. And what is going on with Andrew Luck? I mean, how could you think he's going to be the starting quarterback? That, yes, take the damn job. But if Andrew Luck's not my starting quarterback and I'm going to be the Colts head coach, no thank you. And I also want to say, I mean, cocky offensive coordinator, young guy, he's just the NFL's version of Lane Kiffin.
There's definitely one. The only thing I'm going to add to that is there's something going on here. I don't think Andrew Luck will be starting for the Colts this season, maybe halfway through, but he'll be on the PUP list because I think other than that, Josh McDaniels, Andrew Luck is your quarterback. That's the bright spot. That doesn't happen very often. You're going to take that job. Something's going on there.
The 49ers made Wonder Boy Jimmy Garoppolo the highest paid player in NFL history with a 5-year, $137.5 million deal. James, is he worth it? And does this make the 49ers a team to be reckoned with in 2018?
Now, if he plays the way he's played through 7 games, and he's going to continue to improve, this deal will make sense in the future. But as of right now, I can't say, is he worth that kind of money after 7 starts? How can anybody be able to tell? This is a huge gamble, but it's more of all right, you know what? It's kind of a risk, but a huge reward rather than just a regular risk reward. So I understand the nature of the deal, but can I say that he's worth that kind of money right now? How could anybody?
I mean, the questions are, is he worth it, and does this make a team, does this make the 49ers a team to be reckoned with? The answers are yes and yes. How do you not see this? I mean, if you look at the games that he's played, and then you take those stats and you just base them over a single season, the projection for a single season, his 16-game season would be 5,142 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He would be a 417 for 620. That's 67 completion percentage. And with an 8.29 yards per attempt. I want to thank my friend in Rhode Island, Alex Walsh, for giving me these stats. Really on the money here. With those kinds of stats, you are an MVP candidate. How is that not worth it?
Well, because let's look at who they played. With him as their starter, he played how many games with the 49ers this year? Five, I want to say?
5 games.
Okay. So they beat the Bears. Whoa!
Okay.
You beat the Bears.
Okay.
All right. You beat the Texans.
Okay.
With Texans are injured at this point.
Correct.
You went over that.
Correct.
Whoa.
Okay.
You beat the Titans.
Okay, that's a huge win. Titans needed that game.
It's a big win.
And the Titans have a good defense.
They have a good defense, but we've discussed this. They should not have made the playoffs.
Okay.
They beat the Jaguars.
Okay.
Impressive.
Second best defense or first best defense in the league.
Impressive.
And he tore them up.
So he's got one nice win and one okay win. And then the Rams, yes, he beat the Rams. He was 5-0 this year, but the Rams had everybody. It's playing against the backups.
Okay.
So I really want to see next season
let's take his other two games. The games he started with New England, Arizona, and Miami. Yes, Miami not that great, but Miami actually made the playoffs the year before. They were 11-5. Jimmy Garoppolo tore them up. And Arizona, going into that year, Arizona was a Super Bowl favorite, as a lot of people would say. They went to the NFC Championship game the year before. They were supposed to be contenders for that game, and their defense is amazing, especially on Sunday night under the bright lights. And Jimmy Garoppolo tore them up. He has played his mix of good teams and bad teams, but he has torn up everybody. And you could argue that his worst game was against the Bears, which is his first start of this past season. But you know what? I'm looking more at the Jacksonville and the Tennessee games because those are real defenses, and he tore them both up.
Moving on, Skins could franchise Kirk Cousins. First of all, is this smart for the Redskins? Second of all, is this fair to Kirk Cousins? And third of all, if this happens, what is he worth?
Okay, yes, this is very smart for the Redskins. They need to franchise tag him. It doesn't make any sense for them to just let him go. It has no benefit for them. Is it fair to Kirk Cousins? Absolutely not. The Redskins have continuously bent him over for like the past 3 seasons, even though he has been a Pro Bowl level quarterback.
And very beneficial of money. He's got a lot of money.
Exactly. But you know what? I'll tell you what he's worth. They're going to franchise tag him, and then they're going to trade him to the Browns for the number 4 overall pick, because the Browns have the number 1 overall pick, and they have number 4 overall pick. They're going to trade that number 4 overall pick to the Washington Redskins.
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong as a Jets fan. But it makes total sense for the Skins to do this. I hope they don't, but it would make sense, and I think that they'll fetch more of a second or a third round pick, not a first.
What pick did the Jets have?
They've got the sixth pick.
The sixth pick.
And if I'm the Jets, I'm not.
Do you do that? If you're a Jets fan, which you are,
you got to give us more money. You got to give us more because right now Kirk Cousins is on a franchise tag. He's not signed long term.
But what if you had the guarantee from Kirk Cousins that he would sign a 4 or 5 year deal?
It's still got to be a lesser of a deal because it's not a regular trade. It's a sign-in trade. Those never have those big prospects or the first round picks that happened with Chris Paul. The Clippers got back.
Yes.
Not a lot. They could have got back. They could have gotten more for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But they didn't because he was going to sign with the Rockets anyway. So it's kind of like that in my opinion. So I think a first round pick would be too much in this situation.
All right, moving on to your favorite sport. The New York Rangers have lost 4 in a row, and they've lost 7 of the last 10. It appears they're going to be major sellers at the trade deadline. Yes, they are in last place in the Metropolitan Division, but they're only 3 points back from the playoffs. Should they be selling, or should they try to make one final push?
Now, I cannot stand the Rangers.
Yeah, no, I hate them.
I literally hate them. But I don't think this is the right move. I don't think they should have a fire sale. Injuries have crushed them this year. Just 5 names I'm going to mention. Vesey, Stahl, Shattenkirk, Kreider, Buchnevich, all are star players or former star players or going to be star players and on the rise. All 5 are well-known names. Stahl, Shattenkirk are anchors on defense. Stahl not so much anymore, but he was. Kreider, he's out for the year with a blood clot. I mean, these are what has hurt the Rangers. And you know what? You still got King Lundqvist back there, Henrik Lundqvist. They call him the King for hockey fans, or for people who aren't hockey fans that don't know that. You still have the talent to win the Stanley Cup. Just about 2.5 months ago at work, right when I started my new job, when I was talking to somebody, I said I predicted Rangers Blues Stanley Cup final, and I hate the Rangers, and I think they have the talent to do it. So this fire sale, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, with Lundqvist back there, top goalie in the NHL, and you just had your worst performance of your worst stretch of the entire season, losing 4 games, in a row, losing 7 out of 10, and you're still only 3 points back. You just need some momentum to get right back into this thing. You shouldn't be selling at all.
I do want to add that I called this 5 years ago after the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, Devils Rangers. One of my best friends from up north in New Jersey, where I grew up, I told him, "You guys have a 5-year span." The Rangers were the team to beat. They were the number 1 seed in 2012 that year. I said, "You have a 5-year window. Otherwise, Lundqvist is going. Everybody's going. You're going to tear this team apart and rebuild." It's 2018, 5 seasons later, and look what's happening. And I don't know hockey. Moving on, the NFL Hall of Fame. T.O., Randy Moss, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Brian Dawkins, loaded class. Did they get it right?
Mostly, yes. I am very happy they got Terrell Owens in. I thought they would only put Randy Moss in. I didn't think they put 2 wide receivers in, to be honest with you. And then, yeah, Brian Urlacher, I didn't think they would put 2 linebackers in, but with Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis, they both dominated the game. Randy Moss is the 2nd best receiver ever. Terrell Owens is the 3rd best receiver ever. Then Brian Dawkins, he's one of the favorite safeties of the entire league, and he had an incredible year. But I say mostly yes because they did not put Tony Baselli in. He was the first ever draft pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars, drafted 2nd overall. He played 8 seasons, offensive lineman, 8 seasons, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro, and he was on the NFL 1990s All-Decade team. How do you not put him in?
I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm not sure what, sometimes it's just players that don't play a while, like you said, or just aren't those big names. You saw who was able to go in this year, and the names that are on the list that made it in were the big names that everybody knows.
Yeah, no, the names that made it in, I don't have any problem with anybody that made it in. I just wish they added Tony Baselli.
It's fair enough.
All right, moving on. Aaron Donald is the first defensive tackle to win Defensive Player of the Year since 1999, back when Warren Sapp did it. Is Aaron Donald deserving of the Defensive Player of the Year?
No. Yes, he had 11 sacks, but regardless of that, No, he does not deserve it. There were better deserving players. They were 28th against the run, and he's a defensive tackle.
Yep.
Okay, and they had no top 10 categories on the defense. Yes, they were an approved defense, but no top 10 categories. And you're the defensive player of the year. No, doesn't sit with me. He should not have. I'm not going to give you somebody who should have, because it could have gone to multiple people. I mean, Luke Kuechly had a big year. I mean, that's just for one. There are plenty of players that had big years, but Aaron Donald was not the best.
Yeah, no, I took down Aaron Donald's name and 3 other people that I would have preferred to see win the defensive player of the year. Aaron Donald had 41 tackles, 11 sacks, 1 pass defended, and 16 tackles for a loss. All right, we'll go with Chandler Jones, Arizona Cardinals. 59 total tackles, 17 sacks, 3 passes defended, and 28 tackles for a loss. Every single category was better out of those 4 categories for Chandler Jones than Aaron Donald. Okay, but you want to say Arizona, they weren't a playoff team? Okay, we'll go to a player that was on a playoff team. Calais Campbell of Jacksonville Jaguars, 67 total tackles, 14 and a half sacks, 3 passes defended, only 14 tackles for a loss, but that's only 2 less than Aaron Donald, and he was on a team that actually made the playoffs, went to the AFC Championship game. If you still don't like that player, I got one more for you. Also another player that made the playoffs, Cameron Jordan of the New Orleans Saints, 62 total tackles, 13 sacks, 11 passes defended, and 17 tackles for a loss. Every category better than Aaron Donald, and he was on a team that went to the playoffs in the New Orleans Saints. To me, this is absolutely ridiculous that Aaron Donald won it. I appreciate they wanted to give it to defensive tackle, but no, he does not deserve it.
By those stats, Chandler Jones, defensive player of the year for me. Those are pretty. Those are real stats, especially when you're playing from behind all the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I'll say this: the Patriots are missing him this year.
They were.
So, but I agree with you there. There's no way Aaron Donald deserved the defensive player of the year. Todd Frazier to the Mets. He is a former Yankee. He was traded to the Yankees last year. He is born and raised in Toms River, New Jersey. He grew up a Yankees fan. He played in the Little League World Series, and now he's with the New York Mets. Will he make a difference? Is this going to hurt the Mets in any way? What's going on here?
So look, Todd Frazier, he's a very nice piece. He will play good defense. He will hit some home runs for you. But look, if we're talking about the Mets and them having success, it's all about how healthy are their aces. They still have to deal with the Nationals, and their Nationals are going to run away with that division, and they better watch out for Atlanta and Philly because they have all these young prospects who are now ready to play some ball.
This is a great signing for the Mets, actually, because Todd Frazier, just kind of like D-Wade, he brings a lot of experience. He's a local boy. Yes, he grew up a Yankees fan, as I said. Toms River is pretty close, actually, to where I grew up. So this is a great signing for the Mets. He's going to hit home runs. He's going to hit doubles. He's going to hit singles. He's a great defender. He plays the corners. Corner base, third base. It's they call it the hot corner for a reason. I love the signing for the Mets. It's really going to help them move in the right direction, although it is not going to put them ahead of the Nationals.
Final topic quickly. All right, it's the biggest rumor since the Super Bowl. Do you actually think Rob Gronkowski is going to retire?
No, I don't think he's going to retire. That would be asinine, although I know he's 29. He's had almost every injury that a player could have. He's basically wearing a leg cast on his arm during every game.
Yep.
But he's a freak of nature. He just lost the Super Bowl. He's still got 2 years left in his contract. Do I see the Patriots trading him maybe after this upcoming year to get something for him? Because I do think he'll retire in 2 years, just not yet. He's got too much talent, and he's still in his prime.
Yeah, no, he's still got 2 more years on his contract. Like you said, he's going to play it out. New England's they're not going to trade him. They're just going to let him go and retire on his own. And boom, that segment's over. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was exciting. We got through just about all the topics that we had here.
That was awesome. I actually really enjoyed that. But guess what? Coming up next week, we got more great topics for you. We're going to talk hockey. We have to talk hockey now that football's over.
Okay.
You knew it was coming. We'll talk some basketball. And guess what? The basketball all-star game is next weekend. We'll definitely dive into that. We'll see who's going to win the three-point competition now that Steph Curry is not in it this year.
Yeah, very interesting. Who knows?
We're going to have to find out. We'll see next weekend right here on BPH.